Today, we're looking at the prophecies of a legendary seer whose predictions for 2026 are making some serious waves. Her name was Baba Vanga, and what she supposedly saw coming is pretty wild. But that kicks things off with a huge question, right? Can a single person really, truly see what's in store for all of us? Let's get into her story, and you can be the judge.
All right, so let's start with the basics. We're talking about the mysterious Bulgarian mystic, Baba Vanga. Her name has pretty much become synonymous with prophecy.
So, who was she? Well, she was born Vangelia Gustarova back in 1911, but the world came to know her as the Nostradamus of the Balkans. And get this, she wasn't some fringe figure. She was so revered that the Bulgarian government actually paid her a salary. Kings, presidents, top officials, they all went to her for advice. Even today, her home has been turned into a state-run museum. That's how big of a deal she was. So, how did a simple village girl get these supposed abilities? Well, according to her followers, it wasn't a gift she was born with. It all started with one single terrifying event. A vision, you could say, that was literally born from a storm. Let's walk through it. Up until she was 12, she was just a normal kid. But then, a freak tornado, a huge whirlwind, tore through her village and apparently hurled her into a field. The sand and dust were so intense that she was blinded, permanently. It's a tragic story, but it was right after she lost her physical sight that she claimed to have gained a second sight, the ability to see things others couldn't. And what's really fascinating is how her visions supposedly worked. This wasn't about crystal balls or tarot cards. Baba Vanga claimed that all she had to do was touch someone and she'd see their future in a quick visual flash, like a movie playing out in her mind. Of course, a seer is only as good as their track record, right? So let's look at some of the prophecies that her followers swear have already come true, the ones that really cemented her legacy. So here's a look at some of her supposed greatest hits. Believers will point to her predictions of World War II, the rise of ISIS, and even that the 44th U.S. president would be an African-American man. Pretty recently, her 2024 prediction about a baby being born through a fully robotic IVF process actually happened in Brazil. But the big one, the one everyone talks about, is her alleged prediction of the 9/11 attacks, which she supposedly made way back in 1989. Okay, but hold on a second. This is where we have to put our critical thinking caps on. How were these prophecies actually phrased? This is where we get into the ambiguity, the real fuzziness of her visions. This is the famous quote attributed to her. "Horror, horror. The American brethren will fall after being attacked by the steel birds." I mean, it sounds chilling, right? But it's also incredibly poetic and very, very open to interpretation. And this slide just perfectly breaks down how it works. It was only after the tragic events of 9/11 that followers started connecting the dots. Suddenly, the American brethren must have meant the Twin Towers, and the steel birds were, of course, the airplanes. You see? The interpretation came long after the event. And that's the key thing to remember here. Her language was often so vague that you could make it fit a lot of different events, especially when you're looking back in hindsight. This pattern is so important to keep in mind as we look at what she supposedly saw for our own near future. So, with that healthy dose of skepticism in place, let's turn to the main event, Baba Vanga's dramatic and, frankly, pretty alarming forecast for the year 2026. Yup, 2026. That is just around the corner. And according to her followers, she laid out 4 massive global shifts that are supposed to start unfolding. Okay, here we go. First, she predicted that machines, which a lot of people now think means AI, will start to control our lives, deciding everything from our jobs to our relationships. Second, a huge war in Europe will cause its population to drop dramatically. Third, World War III will kick off, starting in Asia. And last but not least, a new global master will rise to power. Now, this last prediction is where it gets really interesting. The prophecy specifically said, Vladimir will rise. And yeah, I know, one name immediately jumps to mind, but check this out. In her native Bulgarian language, the name Vladimir literally means ruler of the world. So the question is, was she naming a specific person, or was she just describing a type of leader who would emerge to rule the globe? And if you thought 2026 sounded intense, just wait. Her predictions go way beyond that, getting stranger and more sci-fi the further out you go. So let's take a quick, wild ride into the distant future she imagined for us. I mean, look at this stuff. She apparently foresaw humanity developing reverse aging technology, traveling between planets, and even making contact with aliens. She also talked about us creating an artificial sun to get rid of nighttime completely, and, get this, an eventual war between humans on Earth and the human colonies on Mars.
Her visions basically painted a picture of a completely different world order, a society where global communism takes over, a Europe where Islam becomes the main religion, and a planet totally reshaped by melted ice caps, flooded cities, and is constant light from an artificial sun. So what do we do with all this? Are Baba Vanga's visions a sneak peek into a future that's already written in stone? Or are they just a bunch of vague, poetic warnings that we twist into a story that fits after the fact? The answer to that question might say a lot more about us and how we see the world than it ever will about her. Thanks for tuning in.